Every season, the honor is given out to the player who's dominated the competition night in and night out. However, while few can deny that they merited the prize, the Heisman can become a touch exaggerated at times. For whatever reason, the Heisman Trophy might be seen as a symbol of excellence. Not necessarily in terms of wins and losses, but in terms of an individual's total performance. We've come to put an end to that ever-expanding concept. Despite putting up spectacular numbers, guiding their respective teams to tremendous success, and putting the entire college football world on notice by winning the Heisman, every winner of the trophy has had a few duds. So here are some of the 5 worst games of Heisman Trophy winners. Here we go. At number 5, Gino Torretta. Worst game, 80 yards passing, no touchdowns. The University of Miami is generally associated with mediocrity among fans. Who are we to blame? Every year, the Canes seem to fall dreadfully short of their expectations and usually end up towards the bottom of the barrel. Back in the 90s, though, Miami was the place to be, not just for fun, but for college football. Gino Torretta coached the Miami Dolphins to a near-perfect 11-1 record in 1992. The only defeat came at a horrible time for them, as it was in the Sugar Bowl. However, that was not the time in which Torretta performed the worst. Against Penn State, the 1992 Heisman Trophy winner looked like, well, they won by 3 points. It did it in spite of Torretta, not because of him. Torretta had a terrible game, completing only 11 of 31 passes for 80 yards and failing to throw a score. We find it difficult to imagine that a player can throw the ball down the field 31 times and end up with only 80 yards. At number 4, Bo Jackson. Worst game, 48 yards rushing and no touchdowns. Is there a more iconic athlete than running back Bo Jackson? During his tenure at Auburn, he was notorious for going straight over defenders. Unlike most of the names on the list, Jackson and his Auburn Tigers did not enjoy a lot of the success during their 1985 season, finishing with an 8-4 record. Having said that, Jackson did his thing that year. The explosive running back carried for 1,786 yards and 17 touchdowns. It was practically hard to put a stop to him, even for the time he faced Florida that season. There's no getting around the fact that Jackson was dreadful in that game. He rushed 16 times for 48 yards and no touchdowns. Unsurprisingly, Auburn went to lose the game, but it was a close one, 14-10. It didn't matter what Jackson tried to accomplish during the game, because when he tried to blast his way up the middle, he ended up devouring grass. When he attempted to outrun defenders, he was easily captured and brought back down to the turf. It was just a bad performance from a player who had a fantastic season. At number 3, Mark Ingram. Worst game, 30 yards rushing, no touchdowns. The 2009 Alabama Crimson Tide are grossly underappreciated. To be honest, one may argue they deserve to be mentioned as the greatest college football team of all time. With a 14-0 record and a slew of blowout victories, Alabama was nearly unbeatable. Having said that, they had their hands full with Auburn near the end of the season. While they still won the game, their Heisman Trophy winning rushing back had his poorest game of the season. Mark Ingram had only one running style. He didn't try to avoid contact with any spin maneuvers. No, he was just used to running right over defenders. However, as he lined up against Auburn's defensive players, they repeatedly threw him face first into the soil. Despite having 16 carries, Ingram only gained 30 yards, or fewer than 2 yards per carry. He also did not hit his head on the goalpost. Fortunately for Ingram, Heisman voters did not hold it against him, but with one of the best running backs in recent memory looking so bad, he should consider himself fortunate that Alabama went unbeaten that season. At number 2, Doug Flutie. Worst game, 136 yards passing and no touchdowns. Doug Flutie had 4 years to break through the Heisman Trophy barrier, but he did so in his last season at Boston College. Officially, Flutie won the most coveted honor in college football after throwing for 3,454 yards, 27 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions while leading his team to a 10-2 record. Throughout the season, every defensive coordinator struggled with Flutie. He, on the other hand, was abysmal when they faced Syracuse. And at number 1, Herschel Walker. Worst game, 20 yards rushing, no touchdowns. In his first season at Georgia, he carried for 1,616 yards and 15 touchdowns, but finished third in Heisman Trophy voting despite leading his team to a 12-0 record. He got even closer in year 2, gaining 1,891 yards and 18 touchdowns on the ground. Finally, he won the title in year 3 with 1,752 running yards and 16 touchdowns. Walker, despite being a collegiate horse, had the worst game for a Heisman Trophy winner ever. He was fed the ball 11 times in a low-scoring game against Clemson, but he didn't only fail to hit his head on the goalpost, but he only gained 20 yards. There may have been a slew of bad performances by Heisman Trophy winners over the years, but Walker's performance against Clemson was by far the worst when compared to the rest of his peers. Well guys, thank you so much for making it to the end. Be sure to smash that like button, subscribe to Sport Utopia, and ring that bell so you never miss a video. Thanks for watching.